froze up.
Oh no, not again.
Oh, yep. It's froze up.
Just my luck.
Oh, wow. Well, it's been a 24 hours like that, Danielle. Let me tell you. Uh, as far as the
Live.
you just
Okay,
you
we're
you're
back.
you're back, yeah.
I'm not sure what happened again, but we're back. Welcome to Book World: The Great Escape. This is Wednesday, September 7th, and we have a special guest today, Miss Danielle McDonough, and we're going to be talking dystopian fiction in just a few minutes. To start, Mike, how was your week? Because you had a special thing going on.
Yeah, well, it's been a busy week. I had talked with Greg Kelso on the conversation, and that was Tuesday. And then had the book launch, eventually book launch last night. And if
That was
y'all were,
my
well, that's okay. I mean, you can't help a freak storm coming through like that. Anyway, the book launch of The Cavern of the Veil Queen, and that's the fourth and final book of the Conquest of the Veil series, and very happy to have that done and get it behind me. Very proud of the series. I think it's a good one, and I think I started working on that in 2015 or 16. So it's
yes, but
taken
you must
about.
share about the painful experience of writing it.
Oh yeah. It was a yeah. Wrote a blog about that. I don't know if you knew this or not, Danielle, but when I started writing, I didn't know what I was doing, literally.
Sounds familiar.
So and so I thought, hey, I got a great idea for a book. Started writing and writing and writing and writing. And when I finished, I had a what I thought was a great novel, and it had 1 million word count. Yes,
For one book.
Ah,
yes, and I didn't realize that that wasn't what a normal size book was, which tells you what a babe in the woods I was. And matter of fact, I told CJ this. I printed off the pages, and have you ever seen a 5-inch binder
Okay.
that's almost too full? Yes, you could have used it for a ship anchor if you wanted it.
That's
And
painful.
yeah,
that's amazing.
and anyway, yeah, it was quite. I think I used a ream and a half of papers on that, and so yeah, it was big. So imagine my surprise when I finally started going to some writers conferences and joined a couple of writers organizations that it was just a tad too much by about 100 900,000 words.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I was devastated. But long story short, uh, I decided I needed to learn how to write, and wrote a couple of books before I started, 2 or 3 books before I started on the series, and took the 1 million words and condensed them to a 4-book series, which
You
gives
finished
new
off
def
last night.
which gives new definition to shrubbery cutting. And yeah. So anyway, the last book was fourth and final book. Finished. I think it was released back into July. We had the book release last night, and I'm really proud of the series. But my goodness, I do not recommend doing it my way. So if you're out there, you're an aspiring writer, learn to write first. I mean, yeah, write stuff, use your imagination, but don't write 1 million word novels. That's the best advice I can give you.
Yeah, that's not a good idea. Now
Uh,
you also I started a blog tour this today.
right. Started the blog tour for on Lone Star
Felt like
Literary Life, and CJ is first up on the blog tour. It's actually a
mhm.
review tour, and so the review your blog and your review is posted on the Lone Star Literary Life. For some reason, Facebook is not allowing the link. I don't understand that. I posted that. Uh, I emailed Christine about that. I've never had that happen before for anything. So
Well, hopefully
um,
y'all clear it up.
don't know what sure, but the Lone Star Literary Life link does go to the blog tour, and there's a giveaway. It's a giveaway tour as well. Signed copy of the paperback copy of Cavern of the Veiled Queen. Complete ebook series of The Conquest of the Veil will be given away. Several free ebook or Kindle copies of Cavern of the Veiled Queen. And I'm leaving something out. Maybe that's it. Okay.
Is there like a signed set in there or a set of in there?
A set of complete ebook series of Conquest of the Veil, and but several of free ebooks of the fourth book, Cavern of the Veil series. So there's like 8 winners, 7 or 8 winners. Yeah. So that runs 10 days. I think it's 7 through the 16th or 9 days.
Mike Clifton week.
Yeah.
Mike Clifton all week.
Yeah. So
and then
anyway,
you also have a show this weekend, right?
Right. The started going to some Comic-Cons. Matter of fact, last time I ran into Danielle, we were at a Comic-Con. I'm not was it the Tyler Comic-Con or the one in Henderson, the Athens? I don't remember.
We all met at the Tyler Comic-Con last year.
Might have been the Tyler Comic-Con. But
yeah,
you're going to the
Tyler was the last time we saw each other.
But you're going to the Cowtown Comic-Con too, right?
I am. I will be there.
So yeah, I'll see you there as well. And
Awesome.
But yeah, so we have the Arkansas Comic-Con, which will be in Little Rock, Arkansas. I did that last year. It's a really good Comic-Con, and it's Avcons. I go to several of theirs. It's now VXV is what the new company's called. It does that. So they do a really good job. And I've never been to Cowtown before. You might have been there, Danielle. So it'll be my first time. So I'm looking forward to it.
You guys need to let me know how it works, how it goes.
Yeah.
So this week, next Tuesday is my book launch. I'll be having my book launch on the 13th at 6 p.m. You can find us on YouTube, on my LinkedIn, and on Texas Sisters Press's Facebook page. So at 6 o'clock next week, there's going to be several authors coming. They're all going to be bringing some gifts. But that's going to be the launch for Chain Reaction, which has gotten a lot of buzz so far lately. I've gotten emails that say it's among Amazon's top pick. Caleb and Linda Pirtle put it on their blog. Lone Star Lit's kind of shined a little bit of a light on it. So has Great Book Deals is going to be shining a light on it. And I have a conversation with Greg Kelso next Tuesday at 1 p.m. So anything with the con hour is probably where you're going to be able to find that one. And then on Wednesday night, I will be on DC Gomez's Book Corner. So that one's going to be at 6 o'clock on Amazon Live. So yeah, this weekend is Mike. Next weekend is me. So we're all just kind of bouncing around. But right now, the reason we're in the truck, which you can see behind me, we're heading to Anime, Oklahoma in Midwest City, Oklahoma. So those in the Oklahoma City area, come on down and have some fun at Anime, Oklahoma. So Miss Danielle, what do you have going on?
Well, I actually don't have anything this weekend, but pretty much, especially once October starts, I'm going to be doing Comic-Cons and book signings and book shows every weekend until Christmas. So
wow,
quite busy with that, obviously.
Is that on purpose?
Season. But people just love to get presents for kids and grandkids that aren't electronic. So I usually do pretty well come Christmas time.
Awesome.
It's really is the best time of the year.
Awesome. So now you have a dystopian fiction series called the Legacy series. Can you explain to those listening what exactly is a dystopian fiction book?
Dystopian fiction is the idea that the government is frightening and something to be afraid of. In my book series, everything on the surface looks really orderly and calm and cool, but then underneath there's definitely an undertone of someone's in control and someone's making all these rules and you will be punished if you do not comply.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have read book 1 and I actually have reviewed it here on Book World. And it's kind of gives a little bit, kind of actually a combination between Hunger Games and Divergent. Was that on purpose or?
Well, I have not read Divergent. I actually say that if the Hunger Games and The Giver had a child that looked something like Lord, that's what I was going for.
Can you give us like the basic premise of the Legacy series?
Absolutely. The first book is about a girl who thinks she lives in this perfect world. And then an event is announced called the Trials. And that's how people determine their leadership. But when she starts training, she begins to uncover a lot of secrets. and realizes there's some dark mystery surrounding people's past, and it makes her start to question everything that she's grown up believing.
Oh.
So lots of stuff to discover. Got to figure out what's going on in the past and what they're going to do in the future. It's really the search for truth is what drives the story forward.
So what made you want to write dystopian?
That's a really good question, because I was a huge fantasy lover growing up. I've always loved fantasy. So it was a shock when everyone was like, oh, this is going to be a fantasy series, right? And I'm like, no, it's not.
No, not really.
I guess the reason that I ended up going dystopian was because I feel like that's more what we're seeing in the world around us. So I just saw so many influences and so many different interesting bits that could be incorporated and applied to today's society that I decided to go ahead and take that route my first time around. So
Gotcha.
it was more the impressions of the world striking me in a certain way and just leaving that in my creative brain.
I think that's actually a very good perspective. So I'm glad that's what it came up with. So how did you come up with your ideas? Because there's like a unique challenge in there. There's a little bit of fantasy. There's a little bit of everything in it.
Yeah, I do think young adult kind of incorporates a little bit of everything, which is really fun. The original idea actually came from a dream that I had that was extremely vivid, and I never could shake it. And in the dream, I really felt like I was one of my characters, and I understood the motivations that they had. I understood what had happened and what was going to happen. It was just an incredible dream, so realistic. And it's actually the end of book 3 and the beginning of book 4. So it took me almost 3 whole books to explain how we get to the dream.
Wow.
But yeah, that's what inspired the whole thing. Literally a dream that was probably only takes about 5 pages in the actual books.
Wow. So are you thinking of branching out to other projects outside of dystopian fiction in the future?
I am. I'm actually currently working on a 3-book series that will be a fantasy. I always, like I said, I love fantasy, so I knew I was going to get there eventually. Just the dystopian happened to come first for some reason.
Okay.
Can you give us a little bit more about your
Yeah.
Sure. It starts off in the modern world, and it follows a girl who faces a lot of the pressures that most high school students do. She wants to fit in, she wants to be popular, she wants to be cool, but she doesn't know anything about where she came from because she was found on the road as a child and doesn't remember anything. So the fantasy element comes when she starts to search into her past and starts to discover that there's a lot of secrets about her parents and her family and who she really is.
Interesting.
Wow. That's a good premise.
So can you give anybody some advice who wants to write like a dystopian fiction book?
Oh man, I honestly always go with the just do it. Just keep writing. Good stuff will come from it. You may write 1,000,000 words, but there will be good stuff in it, and that's better than not writing any words at all. So I just say, started. Even if you don't know everything, you'll learn as you go to a certain extent. And yeah, as long as you continue writing, you're going to get better.
That's right. I'm glad you mentioned about, you started, because I'm sure all of you, both CJ and Danielle as well, pretty much every book event I've been to, and I bet it's the same with you, at least one person comes up and asks, I'm writing something, or, but what advice can you give me? And what you said, Danielle, I think was pretty much sums up, finish what you start, and because 90% of the times, well, I stopped doing it at some point, but but if you're listening out there, stop at about 100,000 words. Don't go on to 1,000,000. So
I don't know. I don't even know how long did it take you to write 1,000,000 words?
That is a good question. And
I don't even know if I did 1,000,000 words in all of my books combined. I mean,
oddly enough, when you don't know what you're doing, the words come faster. who you don't have to worry about commas or gerunds or periods. Sentences can start at the front, top of the page, and go all the way to the bottom. You just don't have to worry about those kinds of things. So you just, it's like a gusher, an uncapped oil gusher, just spews out. And so it actually took me less time to write the million words than it did to take that mess and make, imagine a piece of coal, which supposedly diamonds come from through, heat and pressure. So imagine a coal the size of the Empire State Building that you whittle down to a diamond the size of a ruby or something. But anyway, it actually took less time, CJ, and because, like I said, when no writing rules exist, it's like going down a slide. Till you reach bottom, it's whoopee all the way.
I gotta ask, was it on the computer or was it handwritten?
No, it was on the computer, because I can't even. I can't even. No, yeah, I can't even read my own handwriting, so there's no way I could have done it. Being in public education for 38 years, where you do a lot of this stuff, I didn't have real good handwriting when I started. So once I started using the computer, I think now I can sign my name, and that's about it. So I don't do anything by hand. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I should have taken a picture of that folder.
You should have, because that would have been good for your blog.
Yeah.
I'm sad you don't still have it.
I know.
For dystopian fiction, what are some key elements besides like governmental do you think need to be in them?
Usually the key elements involve a post-apocalyptic world, which mine does. Sometimes they involve a lot of advanced technology, which mine does not. They usually involve some sort of secret societies, which mine has several. And they usually tend to involve some kind of coming of age ceremony, which is what I consider the trials to be.
So who is your target audience, Danielle? What demographic or age groups do you think would enjoy your books?
I say it's young adult, which is everyone from teenagers to upper to mid to late 30s, usually. But I've had people of all ages read it and say that they really enjoyed it. So young adult, I feel like, is just a way of saying more in the way that we speak these days. It's not hard to read. It's usually an easier read is what we consider it. So pretty much anybody who loves young adult or enjoys any type of dystopian or fantasy, I think those are definitely the people who would enjoy it the most.
So there's a fine line between, because I just finished reading I bought an apocalyptic novel. Apocalyptic. Say that 5 times in a row. Apocalyptic. Okay, novel at the last Comic-Con I went to from another author, and I just finished reading it. But anyway, I've also read Hunger Games, and some of the other dystopian books, and enjoyed them. But there is a line, isn't there, Danielle, between true apocalyptic, like Stephen King's The Stand, for example, and dystopian novels, dystopian fiction.
What would be the difference in those?
Well, dystopian is defined as having that government that you are afraid of. So usually that's what the difference would be. If it's just every man for themselves, a lot of anarchy, that's more of a post-apocalyptic type world. And then if it's more of like an organized society with very strict rules and people who are going to make you do what they want you to do, that tends to be more of the dystopian side.
And a lot of apocalyptic novels. I'm tongue-tied this morning. The zombie apocalypse, World War Z, that sort of stuff.
You got it.
Yeah. So it's not, but I like the dystopian. I like the dystopian novels. Really enjoyed Hunger Games, and you've been quite successful, Danielle. I was telling CJ that you have over 40,000 Twitter followers. Congratulations for that. That's quite a feat.
That is definitely my biggest following. So shout out to all my Twitter fans. I love you guys so much.
Awesome. So, Mike, why do you like dystopian over apocalyptic?
Well, the apocalyptic, especially if it's zombie novels,
Oh, I didn't say that.
which I like, apocalyptic novels. I enjoyed Stephen King's book, The Stand. It's one of the most, probably one of the all-time favorite books I've read for a couple reasons, because there's a distinct difference between, good and evil in that. And I like that in a, in a novel. And when you get to the standard nowadays apocalyptic novels with zombies and stuff, it's pretty much you got a sea of living dead, you shoot them in the head, they die. There's not a whole lot of human interest story kind of stuff going on that, but there is in dystopian. You can actually have developed characters that suffer from the same issues and problems we do, but it's in a post organized world, like Daniel was saying, with a different kind of government, with the rules have all been changed, and not usually for the good. And but the people there, it's easier to create characters and get them into to sympathize, as well as having the bad guys, that are really bad, uh,
That's
so
this is one genre I haven't ventured into yet. I've so far done paranormal / fantasy. I've done sci-fi with like the abilities, and now I've done time travel. I'm kind of curious if I can actually do a dystopian. I like the challenge of it. Danielle, was there any challenge within you as far as writing this, especially since fantasy is more your world?
The biggest thing for me was just doing the world building and thinking how the society would have reformed in the post-apocalyptic setting. So that was honestly the hardest part for me. I had to explain everything really logically, and I'm not saying I would have, but if it had been a fantasy, there were times it would have been tempting to say, "Oh, it's just magic," It's like
Magic has been
do
there.
that because it was set in the real world.
Mhm.
So that was one of the things where in a lot of my stuff that I had dabbled in and written, just for fun that I never finished, it was like, oh, it just looks like that because it looks like that. Whereas I have to actually have like the logical explanations for things in my head, even if they don't make it on the paper.
Wow.
So was it hard to build the world?
Hmm?
Was it hard to do your world building for this?
It was at first, but when I really started to like understand exactly how the world was rebuilt and how people saw the world themselves, it started making a lot more sense. Really thinking like how a character would feel in that situation just helped immensely with that, and understanding what they would know and what they would not know about the past and our culture and our civilization. A good example would be the first draft, I used a lot of expressions and stuff, and then I was like, can't use those. They don't make any sense in that culture, that society, and they wouldn't know about these kind of things. So I definitely went through, and there are some words that like I'm very careful not to use in the entire series, and I took out almost all of the expressions and phrases that are known to our society today. So just trying to adapt to that society and that world was a little bit of a struggle. That was the hardest part.
So Danielle, I have a question for you, which CJ probably we've already talked about that. But did you find as you went from book 1 in the series to book 2 to book 3, and until the completion, did you find that each subsequent book was a little harder to write in terms of having to keep up with all the characters, all the story arcs, or did you have any issue with that at all?
Well, kind of similar to what you did. I actually wrote the entire thing straight through before I started doing a lot of editing and anything like that. So for me, it's almost one continuous story. I kind of had an idea of where I was going to be doing the breaks and changing stuff like that. But not really. It kind of got easier because I just, thought of it more like the character would. And I did have a spreadsheet laid out of like the side characters and the characters I didn't know and all the facts and everything. But for me, it really got a lot easier as I went forward.
Okay. I'm assuming you're a planner as a writer. Planner versus pantser. Would you consider yourself a planner
Well, I would say I have certain points I know I want to get to. How I'm going to get there is a mystery until I write them. So I definitely knew where the series was going to end, but way before I knew where it was going to start. And I definitely knew, like I said, 3 or 4 of the most major events that were going to happen. But so much of it just came to me while I was writing it. Like, what would happen? How would they get there? What do I need to develop more? The 3 main things I try to include are either character development, story development, or world building. And if it doesn't have any of those 3 elements, I'm pretty much not going to put it in. So those are definitely the 3 things that I look for the most.
Well,
Patty wants to know, do you write full time?
I do not. I wish I could do that. I actually have a full-time job, and writing is my extreme hobby. Evenings, weekends, pretty much whenever I have the time, I like to do some writing.
Awesome. I know. So I can usually knock one out pretty quickly, but I'm a complete pantser. Like, I never know how it's even going to end, but when I start it, I just write it.
Yeah.
So
CJ and I are raging pantsers, with a capital
I
R.
am, but I actually know somebody who's even next level when it comes to a pantser. He actually writes his chapters out of order. I'm like, I need to be chronological. I can't do that. That's like next level pantsing. I can't touch that one. So before we go, do you have any gold nuggets or anything like to give to somebody who wants to write dystopian?
I think the best advice is to tell you is the thing that I struggle with the most, which is just really think about your world and how you want it to be constructed. It can be set in a society very similar to today's, but you just need to keep in mind that it has to be consistent and it has to make sense because it will be set in the real world. Unless you're doing some kind of really cool crossover with fantasy, dystopian, all that. So, but for the most part, that's the biggest challenge about dystopian is just making the society believable and amazing.
Awesome. Well, not to branch over, but you actually bridged us perfectly into next week. Next week on Book World: The Great Escape on the 14th of September, we're going to be talking about world building. So make sure to tune in at 1:00 next week for world building on the same place you found us today. In the meantime, if you want to check out Danielle's books, they can be found on www.thelegacybookseries.com. What is your online handle?
Well, I have a couple different ones. For Twitter, I'm the Legacy Book Series, I believe, and then Facebook, it's the Legacy Books. I'm not 100% sure on all of them off the top of my head.
Are all of them on your website?
They are all on my website, and you can actually find the first couple chapters of my first book on my website too, so you can check it out, see if it's something that really catches your interest.
It does me. Like I said, I'm kind of hoping to get into it again soon. I'd like to dive into, I think I have book 2 and 3. I don't have 4 yet. So next time I see you, I need to get 4. But in the meantime, Mike's book launched last night for Conquest of the Veil series. You can find his books on michaelscottclifton.com. Under the books tab is where you're going to find Conquest of the Veil series. Currently, his Kindle is at 99 cents. Make sure to grab it to start this awesome series. My book launch is next Tuesday, September 13th at 6 p.m. I'll be on LinkedIn, my YouTube, and Texas Sisters Press's Facebook. Make sure to tune in. There'll be several authors, and each one are bringing in a special prize to give away. All you have to do is watch and comment. It's literally that easy. So make sure you come to the book launch. Mike's his books are currently on a book blog tour for Lone Star Literary Life. Just head over to Lone Star Literary Life and look for Cavern of the Veil book blog tour, and it will show you each of them. If you want to check out mine today, the Shelf Life blog on cjpetersonwrites.com, you're going to find a 5-star review for this particular book. And in the meantime, enjoy, and we will see you all next week.